Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you might be listening to this. My name is Sutton Def from the Purple Rain Podcast YouTube channel, and you are listening to Quiet Storm Sports. Yes, this is a segment as a part of the Purple Rain Podcast Network, and I welcome you guys in. We are live today. Today is Monday, September 8th. Uh, maybe 12, 13 hours following the Ravens' shocking loss on Sunday Night Football to the Buffalo Bills in their season opener. It was an absolute shit show, to say the least. An absolute shit show for the Ravens. RJ in the house. What's going on, RJ? Appreciate you for coming through. RJ says he's still hurting. So am I. So am I. And that's why I'm here to talk about it, kind of do a little therapy session for our fellow Ravens fans here. So if you're in the chat, let me know. Definitely ring off in the chat. Let me know you're here. If you're watching on YouTube, be sure to like this video, please. Like the video, subscribe to our channel as well. We've got a lot, and when I say a lot, I mean a lot of Ravens content coming your way here as the season is now in full swing. In full swing. Mod Cal in the house. What's going on, Cal? Appreciate you coming through, sis. We got Point in the house, a straight letdown, man. Huge letdown. Yeah, we're here to talk about who's to blame. We're here to talk about who's to blame. Tila M, one of our members here on the channel, says, "Hey, Rain Gang, I don't know about y'all, but I'm not finished crashing out yet. I totally understand. Totally understand you there. 100%. Khalil Bowling in the house says Doctor Strange could not even come up with a million ways the Ravens could lose that game. You guys saw the win probability. The Ravens had over a 90% win probability. As a matter of fact, let me show you something. You see that? 4 minutes, 33 seconds. That was the amount of time that was left in the ball game when the Ravens were up 15 points. Granted, the Bills were driving. Yes, they were about to score. I get all that. But the Ravens were up 15 points with 4 minutes and 33 seconds left to play in the ball game. That was it. And to have a collapse, and you guys see the title of the video, who's to blame for the Ravens' collapse, absolute collapse versus the Bills? Well, it's kind of a layered answer, right? It's a layered answer. And the annoying part about being a Ravens fan is that all Ravens losses are layered. The reasons why the Ravens lost are layered. It's never just one specific thing you can say, point your finger right at and say that is the reason why the Ravens lost. No, it's always a multitude of things. Now, let me go through, before I give you my real take, let me go through some of the things that happened in this game that led to the Ravens losing. We can talk about, Tyler Loop missing an extra point down the stretch of that game would have put the Ravens at 41 points, which, if you do the math by the end of the game, it would have been tied instead of the Ravens losing by 1. That's one thing. Another thing, Jair Alexander did not look ready out there. Did not look ready at all out there. Was getting cooked by the likes of Keon Coleman, who had himself a huge day. Right? So, the secondary was getting picked on. Nate Wiggins was getting picked on a lot. It was working, right? The pass rush. We can blame the pass rush for not being able to generate really any pressure, and I understand Josh Allen was getting the ball out very, very quick. But pass rush wasn't doing anything. When we were trying to rush with 4, I just rewatched the game just now. When we were trying to rush with 4, there was nothing happening. We couldn't get a lick of pressure on Josh Allen. He was sitting back there. He had all day. But he was getting the ball out quick, right? I think a couple of different, coaching decisions, and I want to get into coaching a little bit more. But a couple of the coaching decisions, one that really stands out to me, and another reason why the Ravens dropped this game, it was before halftime, right? When the Ravens were trying to stop the Buffalo Bills from getting a last-second field goal before going into the half. I want to say it was like a 2nd and 10 with 5 seconds left on the clock in the first half. The Ravens rush no one. The Bills are at around midfield, right? But the Ravens rush 0 players. On the broadcast angle, you can't even see anybody on the line of scrimmage for the Ravens, right? So they have 11 guys, all 11 guys dropped back in coverage to try to stop a sideline throw so the Bills, can catch it, get out of bounds, and then hurry up to the, and kick a field goal. But that's exactly what happened. With 11 guys in coverage, we still allowed Josh Allen to make a throw to his receiver, and he got out of bounds with 1 second left. And I can kind of understand the frustration if I'm Lamar Jackson, because as you guys remember, I know you guys watched the game too, Lamar ran in the damn tunnel. He ran in the tunnel prematurely, and a couple of guys followed him as well. I don't even necessarily think it was out of like, nope, that's it. I mean, clock expired. Let's go. We're out of here. I think it was more so, honestly, like a frustration thing. Because how do you let that happen? Like, coaching wise, how do you send no pressure at Josh Allen? So you're just going to tell him to stand back there with no pressure and just deliver a throw. These are the best players in the world. Josh Allen is one of the best quarterbacks in the world. And of course, it pains me to say that as a Ravens fan, but it's the truth. You cannot send no pass rush at Josh Allen and just let him sit back there and just throw it to wherever he wants on the field. Ridiculous. So there was a couple different reasons that you can point to. There's a couple different reasons that you can point to. Okay, here, there, again, the Tyler Loop miss. We can talk about not DeAndre Hopkins. DeAndre Hopkins, he did well. I love that one-handed grab. It's a shame that has to go under the radar. D-Hop getting a one-handed grab over the shoulder deep ball from Lamar Jackson. Absolutely gorgeous. Beautiful ball from Lamar Jackson. Beautiful catch. Maybe even a more beautiful catch from D-Hop, right? Double covered, one-handed, in the end zone, brings it down, touchdown, just like vintage D-Hop. It's a shame that has to get swept under the rug because of this loss. But where was I going? So, and I see you guys are kind of already putting it in the chat. Kind of alluding to what I'm getting at here. And I meant to say Derrick Henry with the fumble at the end of the game. By the way, Roger Rosengarten, I don't want to say completely missed his block on that play, but Roger Rosengarten was the reason why Ed Oliver got so much interior pressure and was able to strip Derrick Henry. Go back and watch it. Roger Rosengarten got beat on that play. Roger Rosengarten got beat on multiple plays last night. Multiple plays. Daniel Faalele got beat on multiple plays. Like I talked about this with Samuel and Njoku last week on the pod. I told Samuel, I said, one key matchup that is going to have to be, is probably going to be a pain point for the Baltimore Ravens is the right side of that offensive line. So we can blame that. There's so many, directions you can place the blame. But what's the common denominator here? What is the common denominator between all of these blunders happening, and not just this game? Because this game right here was kind of like a microcosm or a snapshot, if you will, of who the Ravens are identity-wise. This entire game, when you think about it, the entire game from start where the Bills started off, they started off pretty good, and then the Ravens were really just dominating for 80% of the game. Dominating, But then at the very, very end, right, when you have to kind of push all your chips to the center and close, the Ravens folded. Much like the Ravens' past seasons. Like, think about it. The Ravens dominate during the regular season. They're front running. They're favorites to win. 90% probability to win last night. And then what happens by the end of the season? By the end of the season, the Ravens find a way to shoot themselves in the foot, to beat themselves, and they end up pissing it all away. That's what happened in 2024. That's what happened in 2023. That's what happened in 2019. And that's what happened last night. It was just within the confines of 4 quarters, you saw exactly who the Ravens' identity was. And when we talk about identity, right, I think what we have to really kind of bring to the forefront of conversation here is the culture, right? The discipline, the lack of discipline, right, that this team has. It seems like this team really has no real identity. They seem lost out there. They seem lost out there. Late in games, they have no idea how to close. They cannot force a turnover to save their lives. I said it last night when I went live. I said it last night. The Ravens forced 0 turnovers in that game. Had a couple near picks. Chidobe Awuzie dropped a pick. Malachi Starks dropped a pick, right? Kyle Hamilton forced a fumble, but it was recovered by the Bills. So it's like we're getting close. We're getting almost, but guess what? Close only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades, not in professional football. It's either you got it or you didn't. And the Ravens didn't. And down the stretch of that game, I mean, the Ravens literally, I think somebody said in the chat, just gave it away. Just gave it away. Quite literally. Quite literally. 60 people watching live. Thank y'all so much for coming out to this episode of the show. Before I get into the real topic at hand, before I get into the real culprit, at least in my personal opinion, I want to see what you guys are saying here in the chat. Make sure you sound off in the chat. We got a member in here. Chris M is in the house. What's going on, Chris? Appreciate you for coming through. One of the members here at the Purple Rain Podcast YouTube channel. I appreciate all of our members. We love you guys so much. Let me see. Space Bandito 9. What's going on, Beam? Says, look like it's a new sheriff in town for Maryland teams. # go Washington. Yeah, I'm sure you're enjoying that Commanders W over the New York Giants, the New York Football Giants. Congratulations. And the Giants actually kept that game pretty close down until the end, that last touchdown. So, yeah. Watch it, Beam. Watch it. But shout out to you, though. Let me see. Shamil Malik says the defense without Kyle Hamilton would be absolutely toast. Yeah, there was another play late in that game. I think it was on that last Buffalo drive where it was a head scratcher for me for Zach Orr to dial up a blitz where we're sending Kyle Hamilton at Josh Allen. I would have much rather taken my chances with Kyle Hamilton back in coverage as opposed to, rushing the passer. I get it. Pass rush wasn't getting home. I understand that. Even though I think the drive before that, Nnamdi Madubuike had forced a sack. Travis Jones had looked really good, forcing interior pressure as well. But on the edges, for the most part, Josh Allen was perfectly comfortable. So I understand why Zach Orr maybe wanted to, okay, let's send Kyle Hamilton. Let's try to blow up whatever they got going on right now. But Josh Allen was getting the ball out so fast, rushing Kyle Hamilton off the edge is almost a non-factor. It was almost a non-factor because he was getting the ball out so quick. Like, let Hamilton be back there and just take your chances with, him being in coverage with somebody or him helping maybe a Jair Alexander in coverage because Jair Alexander got cooked. He got cooked. And honestly, on that very last drive where Keon Coleman catches it up the seam and he almost takes it in for a touchdown, he breaks Jair Alexander's ankles. Literally broke his ankles, and Jair barely gets him by a shoestring. Right? That play right there, I mean, if Jair got cooked, right? Not only did he get cooked, but he basically sealed the game for the Ravens by making that tackle, ironically enough. Ironically enough, if you guys remember the play I'm talking about, Jair Alexander basically sealed the game by making that tackle on Keon Coleman. Like, if he lets him walk in the end zone, the Ravens have what? I can't remember exactly how much time was left. I want to say it was maybe like a minute left or something like that. The Ravens have around a minute to mount a comeback of their own on offense, and you put the ball back in Lamar Jackson's hands. But instead, no, he gets tackled at the, I don't know, maybe like the 10 or something like that, and it just sets up for a chip shot. RJ says 47 seconds left. I'll take it. I would have taken that because, I mean, you're going to trot out Matt Prater, who is a, 16, 17-year veteran. He's been making kicks all night. He's going to make that kick. I mean, like, it's over. We don't have any timeouts. You know what I mean? Like, it was terrible. It was terrible. Let me see. My guy Jalen in the house. What's going on, Skip? Says the Ravens were gashing the Bills' run D all night, and they did not any play action off of it in the fourth quarter. They didn't call enough play action off of the run in the fourth quarter. I agree with that. I felt like the Ravens were a little bit too predictable. I feel like Todd Monken was a little bit too predictable with some of the running plays. I felt like the Ravens should have been more multiple and kind of throwing them off balance, throwing the Bills defense off balance. Because listen, man, the Bills knew exactly when the Ravens were going to run the football. And I get it. You want to be the team that imposes your will. You know what we're going to do. We're daring you to stop it. Cool. Trust me. I get that. But that's why I really loved a lot of the boots. And there were some play action fakes. There was some where, he faked it to Derrick Henry, and then Lamar Jackson boots out the other way and he goes for a big gain. There were a lot more design runs from Lamar Jackson in this one, which is why the running game in general was very, very good. The Ravens ran for over 200 something yards. It was crazy. Derrick Henry was getting whatever he wanted. He was averaging 14 yards a carry in the first half, had multiple touchdowns. The running game was great, which again leads to some crazy stats, by the way, because I think that there was a crazy stat that was going around that teams that ran for over 235 plus yards and were up a certain amount of points, they were 277-0 or something like that. And after last night, the Ravens are 277-1. Now, let me talk about John Harbaugh. I'm about 15 minutes into this. I have not said anything about John Harbaugh just yet. Haven't said anything about it. Let me see here. Some crazy stats, dog. The Ravens have now lost 8 games since the 2021 season in which they at one point had a win probability of at least 90%. That's 3 more than the next closest team. Incredible. And here's the real stat. The Ravens are the first team in NFL history to score 40-plus points and rush for 235-plus yards in a loss. The first team. We made history. The Ravens made history last night. You score 40-plus, you run for 235, and you lose. And again, like I said, teams who put up those type of numbers in games, they were previously 277-0. So losing that game, I think, was a huge indictment on the head coach, John Harbaugh. And I know I'm not crazy when saying this, because this has been co-signed not only by fellow Ravens community members, but actual ex-players. Right after the game, Rodney Harrison, as part of Sunday Night Football coverage on NBC, he had a lot to say. Especially about John Harbaugh. So I want to go ahead and get into what Rodney Harrison said. Let's go ahead and look at that, shall we? Let's go ahead and take a look at that.
Harbaugh, excuse me, I'm looking at Coach Harbaugh, and he has to continue to emphasize finishing. And that's something that comes from the head coach. And this just cannot, they're too talented of a team. This is their Super Bowl window. They have an opportunity to do some special things. And when I see them falling short like this, it's just an undisciplined team. They get comfortable, and they just need that head coach to continue to put that pressure on them and say, guys, you can never get comfortable. I don't care if you have a 15-point lead. You got to continue to finish. And I think that comes from the head coach.
And you had mentioned already this season, you felt like that had been some of their shortcomings, in particular in the playoffs, was some of those similar mistakes. Is that some of the same things you saw tonight?
Yeah, it's just it's a mindset. Okay, whether you're up 15 points or not, you can never relax. You can never just say, Coach, okay, we're good. It's only 4 minutes left. You're playing against Josh Allen. You're playing against a team that's super explosive. They got an unbelievable quarterback that. They always believe that he can get it done, Coach.
Yep, no doubt about it. And again, you talk about discipline, you talk about doing things right, and they didn't do it when it counted. In those last 5 minutes of the game, they didn't execute.
And some of the players have to be accountable.
Yeah.
I talked to Jair Alexander. He said, "Oh, I'm ready to play. I'm going to play 2020."
Hey, real quick, guys, can you guys like the video for me? If you're watching on YouTube, really quick, before we go any further, please like the video, subscribe to the channel. If you are new here to the Purple Rain Podcast YouTube channel, we will be live like this pretty much every day, because now the season is in full swing and there's always going to be something to talk about. Always going to be news. We're going to be live later today. Me and Alex might bring a special guest on. Not sure yet, but make sure you stay locked into the Purple Rain Podcast YouTube channel by subscribing and also liking the video, because that helps us out so much. Helps us out a ton. And if you're watching the replay of this, you're not watching live, please leave a comment down below why you think the Ravens lost this game. Who's to blame and why? Let's continue.
Have you got to be ready when your name is called. You have to be ready. And if you don't have post safety help, what are you doing playing outside technique, giving up the inside? It's those little things, but that comes from an experienced defensive coordinator. You know what I mean? So
details,
the small details, and that's the difference between winning a championship and just being an MVP and not winning a championship.
For sure. And as good of a game as Derrick Henry had, he's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer when this thing's all said and done. That is a two hands on the football, as tight as you can get it scenario. Without that fumble, they're probably still going to put this game away.
But also felt like the defense, they were doing the same thing, just conservative, cover two, no pressures, nothing exotic, no moving around. It was just a base defense. And once again, defensive coordinator Zach Orr, I think he's grown as a defensive coordinator, but he has to get better. He has to understand his personnel better, and he has to understand the opposing team's personnel.
All right. So that was the end of that clip. Rodney Harrison, two-time Super Bowl champion. He was basically confirming all of the things that a lot of Ravens fans have been confirming for the past couple of months, for the past couple of years, to be honest with you. It feels like this team has no direction. It feels like this team lacks so much discipline. It feels like this team does not fight for anything. They don't stand for anything. Like, they're front runners, to be quite honest with you. In the face of adversity, against good teams, bad teams, doesn't matter. I've seen Gardner Minshew walk through this defense. You know, I've seen way worse quarterbacks than what we faced last night walk through this defense. And then the offense just sputtering. You know, like, I want to get into a couple of different things, you know, from the game that I have not talked about just yet, and I'm very, very excited to talk about. But I do want to interact with you guys in here. We got Steve Loop in the house. What's going on, Steve? Appreciate you for coming through. Says he liked the video. Appreciate that. Says thank you for the coverage. Of course, man. Of course, man. I am here for the Ravens community all season long. All season long. Me and Alex. So I think Steve might be. Are you related to Tyler Loop, Steve? I think you are. You might be. If you are, let me know in the chat. That'd be really cool to know. Don Royal in the house says Roquan should give his money back. Listen, like I just told you guys, I just got done rewatching the game. I was reluctant to do so because I knew it was going to piss me off. But I had to, just so I can kind of recount some things that I missed on the live broadcast last night, just kind of in the moment watching the game. You guys know how it is. Roquan Smith, I think that his days with the Ravens are numbered. I do. Because in these high leverage situations where you need, of course, you need your back end, your secondary to play well. You need your guys up front to get pressure, especially with four. But in the middle of that defense, you cannot be getting washed out of as many plays as Roquan Smith gets washed out of. Do you guys remember? I think it was sometime in the second quarter, I want to say. And I think the second quarter was dwindling down. And it was a third and short, maybe a 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4 for the Bills, something like that. They do a handoff to Khalil Shakir. Deion Dawkins, the left tackle for the Bills, he pulls and he kicks out Tavius Robinson, who was going to scream off of that edge and make that play and blow that play up. But then you saw Roquan Smith and Trenton Simpson just getting manhandled because the offensive lineman got up to the second level like it was absolutely nothing. Like it was nothing. And completely took out Roquan Smith, and Trenton Simpson and Khalil Shakir easily picks up a first down on that play. Kyle Hamilton ends up making the stop. There was another play with Roquan Smith. You guys know the big James Cook run, right? You guys know what I'm talking about. The big James Cook run. That one was even more egregious to me. Because how in the world do you have the angle on James Cook? I think James Cook had to do a little stutter step, a little mini juke move to get away from Marlon Humphrey, which was leading him right into Roquan Smith. Which, if you are an all-pro linebacker, top 10 in tackles, right, getting paid like you are at the linebacker position, being widely regarded as one of the best linebackers in the National Football League, you have to make that fucking tackle. I'm sorry. Excuse my language. But I'm sick and tired of seeing Roquan Smith not be quick enough to the point of attack and not be powerful enough at the point of attack. He got hands on James Cook. And James Cook looked like Derrick Henry out there. Stiff arm Roquan Smith into the turf. And then goes on to take it down to the 1 yard line. I think Nate Wiggins made the tackle. Just barely. Right before James Cook got into the end zone. Roquan really disappointed me. Really disappointed me last night. Really disappointed me. Coach, we got Coach in the building. Sip to Tally Film says hashtag pissed. I'm right there with you, brother. Right there with you. Insane. Insane. Zeke in the house. What's going on, Zeke? Appreciate you for coming through, popping out. Let me see. Pope says the best thing you can do is instantly move on to next week. A rant is definitely deserved, but I'm pretty sure the guys are locked in for week 2. Statement game on the way. You see, Pope, and I'm not done talking about this Bills game, by the way, because I want to talk about the decision to not go for it on 4th down with 1.5 minutes left and punting that ball back to the Bills. I want to go over that decision too. But let me address what Pope says here. And Pope is a really good friend of mine, Commanders fan. Shout out to you, brother. Hope you're having a great day. Says that, okay, so my thing about this, Pope, is that I would believe this had the season for the Ravens not started how it did last season. So you think about last season, right? The Ravens in week 1, season opener, Thursday Night Football, drop a very, very close game to the Kansas City Chiefs, the team who bounced them out of the playoffs the year prior. That game was such an emotional dump, right? Because you went all off season long thinking about how you want to get your get back against the Chiefs. And then in that week 1 matchup, you lose. You spent 6 months planning to beat this team, and you lose the first opportunity you get. That was a huge emotional dump, and guess what? That carried on, that hangover of that game carried on into the very next week, and the Ravens lost to the Las Vegas Raiders. Started the season 0-2. Didn't get a win until we went to Dallas in week 3 last year. So you fast forward to this year, the Ravens drop their season opener against a team, again, who bounced them out of the playoffs the season prior, right? So you go all this time wanting to get your get back. You lose this game in the fashion that you do. Again, guys, look. There were 4 minutes and 33 seconds left on the clock. There were 4:33. It was 4:33 on the clock, and the Ravens were up 15. They lose that game. That is going to take an emotional toll. Just, can you imagine? And really quick, I just want to bring this up because I was thinking about this earlier today too. The Ravens' last 4 matchups against the Bills and Chiefs combined, they are 0-4, right? 0-4 against the Chiefs and the Bills in the last 4 matchups combined. They've lost those games by a grand total of 12 points. 12 points. Because they lost the AFC Championship game by 7. I believe they lost that game against the Chiefs in week 1 last year by 2, so that's 9. We lost in the divisional round against the Bills last year by 2. That's 11. We lost by 1 last night. 12 points. I think that right there in itself speaks to just the Ravens getting outcoached. I can't even say getting outplayed at this point, because national media today, I haven't watched any of the shows. I'm sure they probably woke up and tried to say, okay, how am I going to make this about Lamar Jackson today? How am I going to shit on Lamar Jackson and say that this was his fault? And you can't. You just literally can't. The Ravens just simply got outcoached down the stretch, man. They got outcoached. Period. See what else you guys are saying. Chat's going crazy right now. Appreciate y'all for coming through. Almost 100 people watching live. Thank y'all so much. Let me see. I see the Ravens and Cowboy game. Karen, 2 scores. RJ says this game just shows that Likely is getting an extension. I honestly forgot about Mark Andrews. Not even just no separation and no catches. Yeah, man. I had Andrews on a parlay, bro. I had him over 3.5 catches. Bro finished with 1 catch. Had a good block that sprung Lamar Jackson open for a rushing touchdown. But outside of that, didn't see much from him. Didn't see much. Let's get into that 4th down decision, right? let's get into that fourth down decision. So the Ravens were reeling, right? Only up 8 points. I think it was 3rd and 9. And the Ravens are in their own territory with a minute and a half left. They throw it to DeAndre Hopkins. First of all, the Bills blitz. They send, I think they sent 5. I think they sent 5 on that play. Lamar Jackson steps up in the pocket. He sees DeAndre Hopkins coming over the middle. Hopkins catches the ball, but he gets twisted down immediately 3 yards short. 4th and 3. Now, I'm on record on this very podcast saying that, okay, this season, I would expect for the Ravens to be going for it on even more fourth downs than they did in previous seasons. Now, there's a couple different reasons for that. I think that they want to kind of protect their rookie kicker, but in this case, that doesn't matter because the Ravens weren't in field goal range anyway. But with the game on the line and the defense reeling the way that it was, John Harbaugh decided to punt the ball. He trotted out Jordan Stout, and he punts the ball back to the Bills. In the moment, I didn't have a problem with that. I didn't have a problem with it. Because at some point, your defense has to step up and make a play. You know, they have to step up and make a play. There can't be any more of this just like bend, don't break. Like bend, but don't break. Like that's what the defense was looking like. You know, we were prevent defense, cover 2. They were getting everything underneath that they wanted to. You know, so for me, I still understand why John Harbaugh decided to put the defense back out on the field because, again, at some point, defense has got to come up with a big play to close the game out. Has to happen. You force a turnover, you get a big sack, a tackle for loss, something. It can't just all be on Lamar Jackson and the offense. And I know Derrick Henry had the fumble, but I mean, what turnovers did our defense force? None. Now, I do also know this. I did hear about, it was reported that, you know, the reason why the Ravens did not go for it on that fourth down and short, 4th and 3, was because apparently after that play where Lamar Jackson throws it to DeAndre Hopkins to bring up 4th and 3, Lamar Jackson had cramps. He was cramping, you know, and I think that went into the decision. That played into the decision for John Harbaugh to ultimately kick the ball or punt the ball back to the Bills offense and Josh Allen, which is so unfortunate and so untimely because it's 50-50 for me. Like the reason why I wasn't mad about Harbs punting the ball back is because like I'm fine either way. Like push the Bills back deep in their territory and tell our defense that we've invested so much draft capital in, so much cap space in. And I see my guys from Lunch Break Hot Take in there saying defund the defense. Have those guys make a play. Like, put the faith and the trust in those guys. I think it's important to give them an opportunity to redeem themselves. I think it's important to give them that kind of, that chance to, you know, to bring the game home, to close the game. Like, that's important. Like, your defense needs that type of confidence, you know? So I was 50-50. Like, I had faith that the defense could make a big play, make a big stop when it mattered most. I did. But then the other 50% also told me, like, I also wouldn't mind if Lamar Jackson took this 4th and 3 and we ran a QB power, or, you know, we ran something, you know, just to get 3 yards and really ice the game. I was fine either way. But the Ravens decided to punt it, and they just could not get any pressure. Josh Allen was getting the ball out very quick, and, you know, the rest is history. Let me see. Chat going crazy. Again, appreciate y'all for coming through. But they didn't close it, so what happens the next time we're in this position? That's a good question, Tila. That's a good question, Tila. What happens the next time the Ravens are in this position? Because they didn't close it this time. The defense couldn't close it this time. With all those stars on the defense, we talk so much about Jair Alexander and Kyle Hamilton, Malachi Starks, Marlon Humphrey, Nate Wiggins, you know, Roquan Smith, Trenton Simpson, Teddy Buchanan got some play last night too. We talk about the edge rushers. Oh, Mike Green. Mike Green's going to be so good for us. You know, Adafe Owe coming off a 10-sack season. Kyle Van Noy, top 5 in sacks, 12.5 last year. Our pass rush is going to be crazy. So many names. I haven't even talked about Travis Jones and Matty Beak yet. But so many names on this defense. I think you have to you kind of have to give those guys an opportunity. No, I think you got to give those guys an opportunity. But next time, you have to put the ball into Lamar Jackson's hands. And I think that's what would have happened ultimately last night had Lamar Jackson not caught the cramps like so conveniently at that one time where we needed him the most. Like, hey, 8, we need you to bring this game home right here, right now. Like, get us out of Buffalo. But, I mean, Lamar, again, terrible timing, horrible timing for something like that to happen. For him to catch a cramp, like, seriously? Horrible timing. So, I don't know, guys. It's really messing with me because, again, the Ravens don't lose in ways that, like, don't keep you up at night. You know what I mean? Every time the Ravens lose, it's in such a fashion, in such a manner that you're just like, well, what if this? What if that? Like, we never get dominated. Like, start to finish, 4 quarters, never get dominated. Just doesn't happen. Every single loss is heartbreaking. Reason being is because you know that the Ravens left opportunities on the table each and every time. Each and every time. Let me see what you guys are saying in here. Donald Royal says Micah Parsons is better than all Ravens pass rushers. Interesting. I agree, for sure. Torres says cramps, bro. But it's the truth. Look at the reports. Read the reports. It's not me saying it. That's what they said. Lamar Jackson was cramping, and that's why he didn't want to go for that 4th and 3. He said otherwise he definitely would have been screaming on the sidelines to like, hey, we're going for this. We're going for this. We're going for the jugular right here on 4th and 3, which I do believe that they would have picked it up. I do. Shamil Malik says, you think Lamar trying to protect Harbs? LMAO, maybe Harbs told Lamar we're not going for it. I don't know, bro. I don't know what to think anymore. I think the cramps thing is because why pull that out of your ass? Like, why lie about that? I think that the cramps thing is actually legit. Harb's fault 100% says Alaskan man. Man, it sucks. It sucks. Jeremiah says Allen ran past Roquan easily. Cook stiff-armed him like Henry did. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Torrey says that's weak sauce Sutton. If he had cramps, we would have called timeout. I don't know what that was, man. Let me see. Jair got cooked when it mattered. He did multiple times too. Multiple times. Again, especially on that last drive when I felt like Zach Orr kind of got desperate that the pass rush was not getting home at all. So he decides to send Kyle Hamilton to rush Josh Allen off the edge. But it just simply didn't matter because Josh Allen was getting the ball out so quick. It was basically like Hamilton was not even a factor on the play at all because there was no way he was going to get to Josh Allen before Josh Allen hit that 3-step drop and got that ball out, especially in one-on-one man coverage on the back end. It was just too easy. I think Zach Orr put way too much faith in putting his corners on an island on that very last play. And that was what really killed the Ravens right there. That was it. After that play, they were well within field goal range and, we were at their mercy. So we had to start burning timeouts. It was bad. It was bad. But yeah, Jair got cooked when it mattered most. Nate Wiggins was getting picked on a lot again. Skip says it's going to be some crazy narratives if we lose to the Chiefs in another close game week 4. Listen, man, if the Ravens lose next week, again, the Browns are not a team that you can just kind of write off as a W. Divisional opponents, those are always going to be tough games, always going to be tough matchups. Need I remind you guys, we lost to the Browns last year. So this is one of those years, man, you got to take it 1 week at a time. I'm not even looking forward to the Chiefs. I'm not looking forward to the Lions, Texans, Rams. I'm looking at the Cleveland Browns right now. I'm looking at the Cleveland Browns because if the Ravens don't win that game, not to say that they still can't bounce back because this is exactly what they did last year, but there's going to be some ugly conversations. Like my guy Jalen says here, some crazy narratives. Crazy narratives. Pope says, I hear 40-41 is a scoregami. I didn't know that. I didn't know that score has never been done before, but yeah. Let me see what else y'all are saying before I get out of here, before I wrap this up, this episode of Quiet Storm Sports. Nothing was working. Too much ice cream at practice. Jair back-to-back plays got cooked and a bad PI earlier in the game. That's right. There was that deep pass as well, where Jair interferes, and I'm just like, bro, like, what? What did we get you for? What did we get you for, bro? I don't get that. But yeah, tons of blame to go around. But I think at the end of the day, guys, and I'll kind of leave it with this. At the end of the day, the team just does not look prepared for these big moments. The team looks lost, quite frankly, in these big moments. The team looks like they're lacking discipline in these big moments. And I think that all of that has to do with coaching. You know, there's been way too many times in the John Harbaugh era of the Baltimore Ravens where the Ravens are up, they're winning a game, or basically it's like a tale of two halves, right? Where the Ravens are dominating for one half, and then the second half, they just absolutely fall apart. John Harbaugh has the most scenarios like that in his career, like out of any coach. No other coach does it like John Harbaugh when it comes to his team getting walked down in second halves. And when you watch those games, as a Ravens fan, if you've been a Ravens fan for a long time, you can watch those games and just kind of tell when the Ravens don't have anything left. You can tell when the Ravens run out of gas. You can tell when they're not going to be able to stop a runny nose. And then everything is on the offense. Everything was on the offense at a certain point last night. And what happened? The Ravens tried to salt the game away by running the football. Ed Oliver just blows through Roger Rosengarten, gets to Derrick Henry in the backfield, makes a great play on the ball, strips him, and the rest is history, right? Bills had all the momentum after that. It's just, and again, I think that has to do with coaching. I think it has to do with coaching, and unfortunately, the Ravens just re-signed John Harbaugh to a contract extension, I want to say earlier this year. So Harbaugh is going to be around for a minute. But if I'm Steve Bisciotti and I'm waking up this morning, who's the Ravens owner, by the way, if you didn't know. If I'm Steve Bisciotti, I'm waking up this morning like, like this team, Eric is doing such a phenomenal job putting together this team. Like on paper, there's absolutely no reason we should be losing to any team. Honestly, especially a team like the Bills who do not match up very well with the Ravens. You guys saw Derrick Henry running all over them, running rampant. But there's just something about this team that lacks mental toughness down the stretch. There's something about this team that doesn't really seem like they have it all together mentally, right? Like, again, in the face of adversity. Who could I really attribute? Again, I'm talking like I'm Steve Bisciotti. Who could I really attribute that to? If nobody else. We got one of the best quarterbacks in the league, one of the best running backs in the league, on paper, one of the best defenses in the league. Why do we keep losing these type of games? Is this brand of football that we're putting, is this product that we're putting out on the field, is that not conducive to winning championships? And if so, who's responsible for that? That's what I'm asking if I'm Steve Bisciotti. That's what I'm asking myself if I'm Steve Bisciotti, Ravens owner. But I think that Harbaugh's got such great equity in that building. And as long as you can point to a fumble here or a player doing this, that you can kind of point the finger and say, hey, we just got to be better in these big moments, right? These players have to be better in these big moments. That's what you can easily point to. That's the easy thing to point to. But when this happens, when it's a repeated offense, right? When this happens over and over and over again, you have to wake up and smell the coffee. You got to wake up and say, like, okay, maybe there needs to be a change. The famous saying, a fish rots from the head down, And not to say that John Harbaugh is a rotten coach. I'm not saying that, guys. He's a good coach. But I just think that it's time for a culture change. I do. I think it's time to get somebody at head coach who the Ravens players can, A, relate to more, B, actually really buy into their philosophies. Because Harbaugh, as we all know, is a CEO type of coach. You know what I mean? He doesn't really have reins over the offense or the defense. He just trusts his coordinators. He does teach, discipline and things like that. And we see that in some of the videos that we see from the Ravens coming out of the Ravens camp. We see that. But at the same time, I find it very hard to believe that that whole 53-man roster, they wake up on Sunday and want to run through a wall for John Harbaugh. I don't believe that. I don't see that. Like, as lost as Harbaugh looks on the sideline when we're losing games like that, the team echoes that same thing. They look lost out there because their coach, their leader, looks lost, quite frankly. And I think it's just honestly time for a change. I think it's time for a change. ISO says Bro's ways are expired. Yeah. It says, I'll say it for you, Sutton. He's a rotten coach. I mean, I have confidence that if John Harbaugh went to another team, he would find some success. But I think with this team, man, you're going to need a little bit more than what Harbaugh has to offer in terms of leadership. Because there's no real leaders on the team. At one point, I think back in 2023, we had Roquan Smith, who was playing really well. But after he got punked in the AFC Championship game multiple times, it seems like he was never the same guy. Never the same leader. Lamar Jackson, who's the best player on the team, he's not a natural leader. Super talented, not very vocal. And nobody else on that team really takes the reins of leadership in the locker room. So everybody's just kind of looking around at each other like, all right, well, who's the alpha? Who's the leader? Like, Lamar is the best player arguably in the world, right? Quarterback wise. But who's really leading the ship here? Who's leading the charge? Is it John Harbaugh? Doesn't really feel like it. So again, you guys saw what Rodney Harrison said. It's on John Harbaugh, and I think it's important. It's important to start talking about Harbs and his contributions to this team's kind of shortcomings, because some of it has to be on him. I think a lot of it, but at the very minimal, some of it. And I hope that he's being held accountable. All right. But I'm going to go. Let me see. Cal says, Day said, give Giants Harbaugh so everyone can have a culture change. Give the Giants John Harbaugh. I mean, hey, shoot. I'm not going to say we'll take Dabble, but y'all can have him. And I appreciate everything that Harbaugh has done for the franchise, but at the same time, man, I think somebody said in here, Harbs is too soft. Kind of feels like that way sometimes. Kind of does. Sorry. But it just is what it is. Get conservative way too often. Not nearly aggressive enough. Didn't get aggressive until it was far too late. And that ended up being the straw that broke the camel's back. So, Team Ramey says the question is, does Harbs allow an on-the-field leader? That's another good point. Because back in the Ray Lewis and Ed Reed days, they kind of had like a little bit of a power struggle there, right? Like Ed Reed, Ray Lewis, those guys, Bolden, all those guys, Bernard, they were all very headstrong, and like kind of took the responsibility of leading the team, which when you're John Harbaugh, the head coach, and you're not necessarily an offensive guy, you're not a defensive guy, hell, you're a special teams guy, but you're the head coach. And you see the one role that you should have, in the locker room of being the leader and being the guy who leads the charge, right? Because you're the head coach. You should be doing that. If you see that responsibility and that role being taken on by another player, I could see a little bit of a power struggle there. So, again, I'm not in that locker room per se, so it's like I can't really tell you 100% for sure. Only a Ravens player could. But maybe John Harbaugh wants to, be the guy. He wants to be the leader. But again, I don't know how many of those 53 guys wake up and want to run through a wall for Harbaugh. I don't. So, yeah, guys, I'm going to go ahead, leave it there for this episode of Quiet Storm Sports. Again, we will be live later today, me and Alex. Again, potentially another guest. I'll have to see. But make sure you guys stay tuned in for that. That'll be around probably 6:30, I would say, 6:30 Eastern time. So make sure you stay looking out for that. Subscribe to the channel if you are new here to the Purple Rain Podcast and you enjoyed what you just listened to. I also like the video. like the video. That helps us out a ton. If you're part of the hashtag replay gang, thank you so much for coming through. Make sure you comment down below. We'd appreciate that. And again, guys, we will be live later tonight on the channel. Me and Alex, we're kind of going to talk through all of this again, give you guys our name of the game segment, all that good stuff. So make sure you stay tuned into the Purple Rain Podcast YouTube channel. But until next time, this is your boy Sudden Death. Be sure to stay positive, test negative, and never, ever, ever forget, even on the rainiest of days like today, to call God. It's been episode, I don't even know what episode this is of Quiet Storm Sports, but this has been another episode of Quiet Storm Sports. I'm going to catch you guys in the next one. Peace.